Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Pure Air's January webinar, our first of the year. I'm happy to be hosting. My name is Olivia Tomlinson. I'm one of our inside sales associates here at Pure Air. And today we'll be covering our product, Safetysorb, and why that is the safer choice for chlorine removal. So today, some of the topics that we're going to cover include just an introduction to Pure Air. If you haven't worked with us before, this will be a good opportunity for you to see a little bit about what we're about. We're going to cover toxic gases that we encounter in the water industry. We're going to go into chlorine gas removal and how our product works to do that. And then additionally, we're going to cover why dry scrubbers are superior, particularly our emergency gas scrubber that we use for toxic gas protection. We'll go into a case study of one of our systems that's been implemented into the field. And then we'll also cover our lifeguard technology for our EGS. For those attendees that have previously joined in for our Pure Air webinar series, this will be a refresher on gas phase filtration. And then for those that are new, I hope that this information will be informative. So our introduction to Pure Air filtration. We are based in Atlanta, Georgia. We've been women-owned and operated since 2023. Our president, Ashley Jameson, is at the helm. We were established 20 years ago, and we currently have more than 50 employees and sell to over 60 countries around the world. Some of the industries that we cover include toxic gas protection, protecting electronics, biogas, indoor air quality, and odor and emissions control. So again, this is going to cover our Safetysorb adsorbent media. So this will fall into the toxic gas protection industry. Why is toxic gas protection needed? So in several of our industries, specifically the water industry, they will use chlorine to help clean water and things like that. But it's important that there is something in place to help protect neighboring communities and businesses from any accidental release of these toxic gases. This is also important to help protect personnel that's on site from the gases and protect systems from damage and unplanned downtime during chlorine events. Some of the common gases that we have in the water industry include chlorine, sulfur dioxide, and ammonia. We also have seen a requirement for hydrofluoric gas removal, but that's not as common as these three listed. So why are we in this industry? So toxic gases, the EPA has a requirement to reduce risk, or they have a requirement for a risk management plan if you are in a facility that uses any of these toxic gases. Implementing a scrubber in place can help reduce some of the requirements that industries will have to have on site. So it helps reduce the amount of paperwork and things that they may have to, go through in order to make sure that their business is functioning as it should be. Typically, water treatment facilities will store quantities of chlorine or sulfur dioxide, and if they are storing more than the threshold set by the US EPA, then they should be prepared to submit a risk management plan. Again, what can go into this risk management plan is the incorporation of a toxic gas scrubber and toxic gas removal media. So some of the risk factors to consider when going through their risk management plan or implementing a toxic gas scrubber will be the amount of chlorine gas or the amount of gas stored on site, the location of personnel and the public, the geography of the surrounding area, and the facility layout. So The location of the personnel in public, that can be anything from, are people going to be entering this facility where the chlorine gas is being stored? Does it have the potential of, if it's a water treatment plant, is it in a neighborhood? Is it in a rural area? All of these things go into the planning of water treatment plants and the implementation of toxic gas scrubbers. Again, the amount of gas that's stored on site will also determine the size of the scrubber needed. So in the water industry, common sizes that we see, at least for chlorine gas, would be a 150-pound canister or a 1-ton canister of chlorine. And again, this just goes into making sure that the scrubber that is on site has the ability to remove all of the chlorine gas in the event of a full leak. This also, again, will also consider, how quickly can first responders respond in the case of a chlorine leak and things like that. So these are all the considerations that water industries will be considering when they are implementing a new water treatment plant or things like that. So going over our gas phase filtration and how our media works in our systems. So we focus on gas phase filtration. So this is smaller particles, typically 0.003 to 0.007 microns in terms of the size. And our media will typically, and this is for chlorine gases, for H2S, sulfur dioxide, but basically what happens is the gas is going to come in contact with our media into a system. And so uh, it moves throughout the air is going to move throughout the system as it gets in contact with that first layer of media. It'll begin to spin the media, and that's just means that the media is capturing that gas and is converting it. As we as the air continues to move through the media, we have this active transfer zone. So this is going to be where there's some spent media and some media that's still available for absorption. The air is going to continue through the media bed and will, at this point here where it's unused media, the media has been scrubbed through the spent media part as well as the active transfer zone, and clean air will come out the other side. So as this active transfer zone will move throughout the media throughout the media bed as the media is more spent. So our Safetysorb media is our media that we use for chlorine removal. It's specifically designed for that, to remove chlorine at a high capacity, and it remains available for absorption until the event of an emergency release. So most of our application of Safetysorb will be in a standby system, again, that will only kick on in the event that one of those chlorine canisters leaks. When the media is going through the active transfer zone, the process that's going on is that Safetysorb media is going to be transformed into a harmless byproduct, usually an inert salt that can be disposed of at a non-hazardous waste facility. So this is nice because it helps reduce the cost of changing out the media in terms of disposing it, because we don't have to go through any special parameters or checks to get this media disposed of quickly. Typically, the Safetysorb media will last up to 10 years. That is our recommendation, and that's when it expires. We have had instances where it has lasted longer, but at that point, it's not recommended, as it may not be available for the full absorption of a chlorine leak. So the benefits of using Safetysorb, again, it's a high capacity for removing chlorine gas. It's non-toxic, and that's when it's first brought to you, and it's fresh, but that's also true when it is spent as well, and it's absorbed chlorine. It's landfill disposable. Again, the end products are a harmless salt. So again, is this is perfect for disposing in a landfill as is, and then it's stable and it has a long shelf life. So again, it's available for absorption up to 10 years, and it'll last that long, and unless there is a chlorine leak. And another benefit of using our Safetysorb media is that it's non-flammable, and so it's UL certified. Following up on that last bullet point, why that UL certification matters. Um, Again, it's non-flammable, and why that's important is because the reaction that occurs on the Safetysorb with the chlorine gas is an exothermic reaction, meaning that it will release heat. And if this, process is happening one at a rapid pace, which can occur in our standby systems as the chlorine, as soon as a chlorine leak is detected, that chlorine is getting sucked through our system. Um, so you can have an exothermic reaction happening really quickly, and depending on how large the leak is, it can be, a large reaction. So keeping it away from carbon-based medias that are combustible is important. Chlorine will react with activated carbon, and a lot of chlorine NMSDSs will state that carbon must be kept away from chlorine to help prevent this reaction from happening. It can result in fires happening in the media bed or within the system. And on top of the chlorine leak that is already occurring, having a fire can also obviously pose additional risks to the on-site personnel or the surrounding community. And this can lead to more money being spent just because you're going to have to replace the system, um, clean up the chlorine leak that occurred, and that's, again, that's not ideal for anybody in those situations. So our media is carbon free. It's an alumina-based media, and again, it's harmless when it's fresh, it's harmless when it's spent, and it's harmless to dispose of. So at Pure Air Filtration, we do specialize in manufacturing our own media. And as an inside sales associate, that's what I focus on. But we also have our dry scrubbers that we manufacture and design as well. So for chlorine removal or toxic gas removal, we typically have an EGS, our emergency gas scrubber. And this is, again, typically a standby system that will kick on in the event of a chlorine leak. And the components of this system are typically just the vessel itself is this white system. We have the blower component, which is over here on the side, and then you'll have the adsorbent media, our Safetysorb media that will go inside the vessel. So this is a very, low cost maintenance in terms of just switching out the media anytime you have a chlorine leak or once every 10 years. Um, and it's pretty much a passive system. It takes care of itself outside of changing out that system um, when the time is needed. Alternatively, there is wet scrubbers. We do not manufacture these. We are focused on the dry gas scrubbers. But wet scrubbers have a lot more moving components, including vessels, pumps, lines, nozzles, valves, blowers. And just like any other mechanical system, the more parts and pieces that you have going into your system, the more parts and pieces are there that can break down or will need maintenance or changing out as time goes on. Our systems, again, would just have the vessel, the blower, and the media that's inside. And so it's really low maintenance costs for our end users. Wet scrubbing can also lead to corrosion just because um, we see again, with all the lines and nozzles and valves, it can lead to more corrosion on the system. With dry scrubbers, we do offer our EGSs in a vertical flow like this one, and we also offer a horizontal flow. Um, these this makes it easier for customers to be able to test the remaining life of our media. So that means how much Safetysorb would be available for chlorine removal in the event of a leak. If you know you've had a known leak, um, we can, see how much media you still have remaining that can still absorb chlorine. Or even if you're just, want to keep a good timeline and tracking and see how your media is performing. If you've had any unknown leaks, things like that, doing that media analysis is easy with a dry scrubbing system like ours. In the event sorry, in the event that you do experience a leak, and it's only a partial leak, our systems are designed that you can do a partial change out. So that means that you're not having to replace the entire media bed within this scrubber, and you only will have to do a small portion. So again, this helps save cost on maintenance for our end users. Again, this is some of the corrosion that we see on wet scrubbers. We have in our business, we have replaced wet scrubbers with our system, so that's also something we have experience doing and implementing dry scrubbers into processes that customers already have. Another media that we offer for toxic gas removal is our Sulfasorb 2. So Sulfasorb 2 has the capacity to remove chlorine, hydrogen sulfide, and sulfur dioxide. So we typically in the water industry, this will be used at water plants and wastewater treatment plants. Um, our Sulfasorb 2 media has the ability is fire resistant. It's impregnated with a proprietary chemical to help make that fire resistant, and so that it can be used again to remove chlorine, hydrogen sulfide, or sulfur dioxide. And then again, with our EGSs, so this is another vertical flow system, but we do offer our Lifeguard, and this is our media monitoring system. And so again, as I was speaking previously on the media life analysis that we offer, um, this Lifeguard technology gives customers a live reading on how on the amount of media that is remaining to remove gases. So this will typically be reported in a number of days or a percentage for our. So it takes out some of the guesswork that customers will have to do. It helps with, if customers want to send in media samples, we definitely love that. This helps, decrease that lead time on getting results back on the media life analysis. So customers can see in real time, hey, okay, I have about 30 days remaining on my EGS if I haven't had any chlorine leaks in terms of when it's time for me to replace that media. Again, our media for Safetysorb lasts about 10 years. And then additionally, it can also let you know, like, hey, you had a chlorine leak, and so your media is no longer available to remove any chlorine gas. So again, this just helps customers with planning in terms of knowing when it will be time to change out that system and replace that media. Um, it can be tied into SCADA systems at water plants and wastewater treatment plants. So again, it's just an added benefit that we offer for any of our systems, and it can also be retrofitted onto competitor systems. So this concludes our webinar on Safetysorb.